Welcome to the podcast editing and support show. My name is Dave. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start the episode right now. Happy to have you here. Let's do this. Hey, welcome back to the podcast editing and support show. It's Dave. I hope you're doing great. It is fun. We're kicking it off. We're doing it. It's the new year. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the show. We are here to talk all things, not just podcasting. It's not just a podcast about podcasting. It's a podcast for people who help people in podcasting. You know, you, the editor, the people who do the dreaded ums and ahs. That's all they want. Your client's like, can you just clean this up? I'm kind of an machine. And can you just make it sound like I know what I'm talking about? And that's one thing that we can do. But there's so many tools coming out now that can do that for you, and click a button here and touch your nose over there and it'll do it all for you. And then your clients find out about this said tool, and then you get that email that says, hey, I'm just going to use the tool. Thanks. And you're done. So if we could come up with something in addition to servicing our customers with the ums and ahs, what if we could help coach our clients on how to do more with their podcast, right? We can do the edits, we can clean up the audio, and we can give it back to them and be done, or we can give them more services. So I'm trying to give you ideas of what you could possibly add to what you do as an editor that could give you more opportunities to help more people, which is the main thing. But if this is a business for you and not just a passion project, then this will give you an opportunity maybe to have another thing that you can offer clients that they'd be interested in purchasing. And that is helping your client to do more with their recording, with their content, to do more with how they approach their show and the level of service and connection that they have with their audience. And this comes from not just recording a conversation, like two people on the telephone type thing, recorded and put on the internet. No. Or a monologue, just one person like me here, just talking, blah, blah, blah. And then I edit, post it, and move on. That's fine. That's what a podcast can be. You know, one voice, multiple voices. It's fine. But it's more about the content and less about just the fact that I can jump on and record anytime I want. I actually have to have something to say so that when my audience comes to listen, there's something to listen to. And what I find in podcasting right now, I find a lot of people who kind of approach content creation as, well, I'm just going to have conversations with my buddy or with my client or my community or whatever, and I'm just going to post it. So I get on with somebody, we have a conversation, and it kind of rambles, goes all over the place, and, that's good enough. Just put a music on at the beginning, music on at the end. Welcome to the Dave Show, la, la, la. Here we go. Go to Dave, whatever, .com at the end. It's like there's so much more to it than just that. And I think our clients, when they come to us, they're expecting the ums and ahs for removals, but they don't think of us as a coach. And I think this is something we need to lean into in 2026. So I'm here for you. Here's a few ideas. So I want to get us to go beyond a recording of somebody's voice or multiple voices to creating a show. A show is much different than just a voice recording. We're doing something a little bit different. A show has structure. Think of any television show, movie, a concert as a show, right? They have structure. They have a point. They have a list. They have a guide. A band would have a set list. And the set list will take the audience through louder moments, quieter moments. There's ups and downs in the songs and how they do it. And one song leads to the next song. And this is a crowd favorite. We'll put it up front, get everybody right into it. There's some thought behind it. It's not just, what do you want to play? I don't know. What do you want to play? And I hear a lot of that in podcasting. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. What do you want to talk about? And as a listener, I find that to be very disengaging. Because if you don't know why you're here, then why would I be here as a listener? That makes no sense. So you need to know where we're going. And what I'm finding is that many podcasts I listen to, they don't have like mile markers. They don't have beats that they're trying to hit. They don't take us as a listener on any type of journey. It's more of like a rambling on kind of a conversation and lots of tangents and lots of verbal walkabouts where they're just all over the place. And they just wonder, as a listener, you begin to wonder, is this podcaster, who are they talking to? Are they talking to me right now as a listener? Because I don't understand where we're going here. And I don't get any value from this meandering conversation. And there's so much opportunities for us to bring some structure. Now, you don't have to be over-structured, but you do need to have some kind of plan from A to B to C, right? Don't just flip on the mic and hope for the best. And I think as new podcasters come into the space, they don't get this kind of direction, and they're trying to figure this out on their own. And you can really speed up somebody's progress in podcasting by simply giving them more than just ums and removals in their podcast. So be sure to put this out there and talk to people and put this on your website that you do podcast coaching. And this could be as simple as just what we're going to talk about today. So consider it. A podcast, and we also call it a show, a podcast feels intentional, repeatable, and audience focused, not just some kind of verbal or brain dump that we're doing on the mic. At minimum, it needs to have a clear structure, defined segments, and moments that signal where we are in the journey of this episode. And keeping those points, those mile markers, those signals, consistent episode to episode. It begins to breed some familiarity for your audience where they know where they are, and they kind of know this is going to happen here, and then the host is going to go over there, and then the host is going to come back over here, and then we're done. And that's kind of how everything works. So why are we not doing it in podcasting? And why are people not coaching podcasters to have a plan for their show, for their episodes? Some core show structure ideas that we can impart on our podcasters as coaches. We need to frame the intro. Now, this is really important to identify what is our main targeted, focused audience for the podcast. We're talking audio podcasting, where people aren't watching on video. That's one type of intro. Okay, you have some latitude there. Within a video first, like a YouTube version of podcasts, you don't have a lot of wiggle room here. So you have to have a different approach for YouTube than you would have for audio. And then a third one would be live, where you see two people trying to figure out technology for 3 or 4 minutes. I think we're live on Facebook. I think this is Instagram is working. Yeah, I don't see the chat. You can't see you. I can hear you, but I can't see you on the camera. Wait, what's that? That kind of stuff. Oh my gosh. Screams, I don't know what I'm doing. And for a person watching a live stream, you're just like, this is so random. So we want to clean that up. So your intro for an audio podcast needs to have framing. For a video version on YouTube, has to be different than audio. You just can't slap audio onto video and go, good enough. Because a 2-minute intro in audio translated to a YouTube video, no. People will be gone before the intro even finishes. You need to have a framing for video. And then you have to have a framing for live. These are 3 different examples. You can't just do one and hope for the best. So frame your intro. And then depending on the platform, a tight hook, who the episode is for and what they're going to get by the end of it. Problem and promise is something that we can encourage our podcasters to consider. And then I would have them practice with you as well. Jump on a Zoom call with your client and have them do several different examples and then give them some examples from the podcast that you edit for. And say, one of my shows, this is how they do it. Another one of my shows, this is how they do their intro. But what you please don't do is have a 25-minute intro where you talk about your guest on and on and on and on. Just get to it, right? And in our course show structure, we also need to have clear acts. So beginning, set up the problem. Middle, explore, teach, talk about the problem. And then at the end, tie it together in a next step. So that listeners are always feel like there's some kind of forward motion in what you're doing. It's not just, I clicked play and I sunk into this quicksand of word salads and I have no idea why I'm here. And the host isn't even talking to me. And then as part of the last part of this course show structure is to have an intentional outro, a recap, 2 to 3 key takeaways, and then one really explicit call to action. Subscribe, implement, send a question, reach out, that kind of thing. All of these things together, framing the intro, having clear acts, and intentional outro, see what I just did there? Those 3 parts will help people to hear the information, absorb the information, and then be reminded about what you just heard. Frame the intro, have clear acts, and have an intentional outro. That one section right here about core show structure that's basically a podcast, as an example. The next part, we need to have some sort of segments, and we need to have beats. Now, I know Taylor Swift talks about this sick beat that you could have, but that's kind of sort of what I'm talking about, but not really. Thanks, Taylor. But we need to have some segments and beats in our podcast. Recurring segments like client clip of the week or Dave's coaching call, coach's corner, something like that. Big mistake, better way. Like an example, I've got like bad information from bad gurus, right? And I'll just pick out somebody who's on Facebook giving the worst answers ever to any podcasting question, and just without naming them or shaming them, just saying, look, this is not good information. And I love throwing these in there. I also have my Dave's rants that I do in the How to Podcast series, and I have a little musical intro and all that stuff. I do these because I want them to be segments. I want people to go, oh, Dave's doing the thing. So it becomes familiar for regular people in my audience, and it's fun for new people who have no idea what they're listening to. And it breaks it up. And you've heard it in this episode. I have little breaks. I have little swipe sounds that go between segments to kind of push you forward. I'm pushing you down the row toward the end of the episode. And there's clear identifiable markers that make you go, oh, on to the next thing. We've now moved forward. And that's what I use. So have these recurring segments and beats. You need some kind of planned transitions and reset moments. I'll throw one in here, even though it's not actually a break in our content, but I'll just, for an example, these little markers are something that just make people go, we're moving. Oh, Dave moved. Okay, we're next. So we're still in this part about segments and beats, but that's an example. Just something that goes, oh, okay. So have these little transitions, these reset moments. They keep the episodes from feeling like one long, undifferentiated monologue. You just, after a while, you've been listening to this podcast and the person's never taken a breath, never taken a break. They've chopped out all of the silence. So you just go from word to word to word to word, and then that, and then this, and then we move over there, and then we don't do this, and we talk about that, and then over there, over there, over there. You're like, ugh. As a listener, you're like, 45 minutes of such constant words and no chance to catch my breath. These little planned transitions help people to kind of break everything down into chunks. Remember, somebody's actually listening to this most likely while they're doing something else. So anytime you can break it up into smaller pieces, it's going to help them to move along with the conversation. Keep that in mind. And then lastly, in this segments and beats part, have some open loops. Teasing a later story or a tip early on in the recording that you're going to get to later. So, you can say, well, I'm going to tell you a story about my son and the time that he jumped on a dirt bike for the first time because riding a bicycle he couldn't figure out. And what happened the first time he jumped on a dirt bike? when he was a little kid. I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Today we're going to be talking about this. Now you're like, oh, I ride dirt bikes. I'm interested in that. I'll probably stick around for that one. And Dave's going to tell a story. It's worth sticking around for. I'm not going to give you that story here. Maybe come back some other time. I'll give it to you. All right. That's just an example. Have these kind of things that you can give people to give them like a promise and a payoff, because those things work together really well. These open loops are excellent within the content structure of your podcast. And if your podcaster that you work for has no idea about these things, then you coaching them on this is really going to help them improve their podcast. When they improve, more listeners come, more opportunities come. They need you even more as an editor, beyond the ums and ahs, because anybody can click a button now and get rid of the ums and ahs. We don't want to get rid of you. So you have more to offer than just simple edits. And that's my goal for this show, is to give you opportunities to grow and learn so that you can keep your clients. You can keep growing this amazing business in this thing that you love, podcast editing and support. And that's why we're here. The other part here is your pacing and your focus. This is something that I know a lot of the podcasters I work with, this is where they fall down. They need help with pacing and focus. Now, this is not related to anything particularly around like ADHD and ADD and focus in that direction, but just in general terms, podcasters need some sort of pacing and focus to their content, to how they show up on the mic. And this is a really important part that you can focus in on with your clients. Start strong in your episodes. Make the runway as short as possible. Think of a plane taking off at the airport. You've got this really long stretch of straight path, and the less of that path you use, the better. Right? You don't have to run right to the very end of the runway before you take off. The less you can do, the better. As far as the length of your intros, the length of your getting to the point. Just get to the point, right? The faster, the better. Start strong. Hit the most interesting story off the beginning. Don't bury the lead we talk about, where the most important thing comes like 35 minutes later. You're like, oh, why didn't you tell me that at the beginning? Because most people aren't going to stick around for that point. If it's boring all the way to the 35-minute mark, most of your audience is gone. Don't hide the great stuff. Put it up front. That's going to make people put their phone in their pocket and move on with their day, and you stay with them. Put the good stuff at the beginning, not the end. Bring it to the front. Even in a conversation with your guest, you intro the guest, you talk about the thing, blah, 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 blah. And then like 20 minutes in, your guest says something that makes you go, what happened? Wow. That moment needs to be at the beginning. You can actually change the conversation without changing the context and move that question and answer up closer to the beginning. Why not? It doesn't have to be as it was recorded. It's what's most interesting for your audience. So start strong. Don't hide the good part to the end. Make sure that there is an interesting story, a pain point, or a result in the first minute or so to earn the attention of your audience, especially if it's a coaching or educational podcast. Stay on one clear promise per episode. Having multiple tangents within your episodes pushes people away. People will only stay in your podcast if it serves the purpose and promise or deepens the main story. Use summaries every 10 to 15 minutes. So, okay, let's pause. So what have we covered so far? These mile markers, they help people who are new or distracted listeners to reorient themselves to what you've done. So let's do one right now. So we're talking about how we're going to take our podcast from being just a recorded bunch of words and turning it into an actual show, right? We talked about core show structure. We talked about segments and beats. And one of the things I think a lot of people don't talk about is pacing and focus. And I think that's one thing that's really going to help grow your show. And that's how we use summaries. And throw them in more often than just the end. There's the host role and the audience awareness component to consider as well. We need to define who the listener is and speak to that one person. This prevents the "who is this for again?" feeling, and it helps us to shape examples and language. As the host, act like the guide. You open the loop, signal segment changes, keep answers tight, and pull guests back to the main question when they begin to wander. Script the first 60 to 90 seconds of your podcast if it helps you, and your call to action. Don't just have some thing you're making up in the moment and going, "Oh, what should I say?" Have that planned out. And then what I do is use bullet points to prompt me for the rest of what I want to say and stay on task and make sure I don't miss anything. Last thing you want to do is get to the end of the episode, hit stop and go, "Oh, I forgot about the thing." Have it written out. Have some kind of guide. And then the last part on all this is our production choices that signal that this is actually a show. There's some intention to what I'm doing here on this podcast. There's a lot been said about consistency, about when you release your episodes, how often you release your episodes, all that stuff. Consistency also comes into your actual episode. Intro and outro music. Are they the same? Are they different? Is that on purpose? Or is that just a mistake? Is that random? And short musical bumpers or stings you hear in this episode, they help between segments, and it makes it feel like more of a produced program than rather just some recording that you did on your phone on the way to work that you really didn't give two craps about. Standard episode lengths, there is really no standard. There's common practices, but there's no rules. 30-minute coaching breakdown with 3 segments, 10 minutes each, minus the intro and outro. There you go. It trains listeners to expect, and it helps them to fit you into their schedule. Do you have to do the same episode length every time? No. Does it help your audience if it's kind of consistent? That one week you're not a 5-minute episode, and the next week you're a 3-hour episode, and then the next week you're a 20-minute episode? I don't know where to put you in my calendar for that, because I have a block of time where I do this task, and it takes me usually 30 minutes. I'm looking for something to keep me company for 30 minutes. Your 3-hour podcast, that doesn't fit in that time slot. So I'm looking for something to fit there. Remember, we do this for an audience. We don't just do this for ourselves. So you need to find something that fits. Do you have to hit a mark and you have to be the same episode length every time? No. Don't do that to yourself. This isn't basketball where you got to shoot your shot before the clock runs out. That's not what we do in podcasting. You can do whatever you want. But realize that if you are completely random in the length of your podcast episodes, people have a hard time just figuring out what to do with you. So come up with something that works. Measure it, get feedback, reach out to me. I'd love to help you. And ask your audience, too long, too short, what do you think? And that's going to help you as well. Repeatable episode templates also help. Having an outline, a segment order, and a call to action slot. These are really helpful for podcasters and makes it easier to coach clients as well. You're plugging their content into a proven show skeleton, and it's not just hitting record and hoping for the best. So as podcast editors and support people, I'm encouraging you to build an episode that helps people and helps podcasters to be their best. Because again, they're looking at you as an and machine removal, and that's all they're good enough for. They don't understand really what a podcast editor does. They don't even know if they need support. So a podcast like this is like, I don't even know if I need this show, but they do. Oh, do they ever? Because it's one thing to make the audio sound bright and crisp and clear and great for the audience. It's another thing to make your podcaster sound like they know what they're talking about. That's where we come in. So do more than just edit the ums and ahs. This is an opportunity for us as podcast editing and support people to take this and their content to another level that helps them grow their show. So as an editor and support person, if you're building your business, you're looking for assistance, somebody else in the trenches who's doing exactly what you're doing at the same time. I'm doing it right now. I have clients I'm working for. Right now, they're totally free. I'm not even charging them. And I'm just building this expectation of, look what an editor can do for you. Look at the time you're getting back by working with somebody like me so that you can put more work into your podcast. You can build your community, make more money with your show because you're not spending time invested in editing. You can invest your time somewhere better. That gives you better returns. So think of me as your lawn guy who's cutting your grass right now while you're building a 7-figure business, right? Your time is better spent on that than making sure your grass is short. So invest in somebody like me. Invest in a podcast editing and support person. It's going to help your podcast. It's going to help your business, your coaching, your book, whatever. And at the same time, you have this beautiful resource called a podcast. It's going to help you and serve you in the long run because you knew it was time to invest in somebody who knows what they're doing, who has the wisdom and the skills because they've done it with other people to help you grow what you're trying to do. So if that sounds interesting for you, podcasteditingandsupport.com is where you can find me. And if you're interested in my other show about podcasting, because why not? It's the How to Podcast series at howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Visit us at podcasteditingandsupport.com, podcasteditingandsupport.com. We would love to help you find a great podcast editor, or if you want to hire us, we would love to work with you. Podcasteditingandsupport.com. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.